Oh, I didn't hear any intro. Did you?
Vince, can we do that again? Let's do that one again. Here we go. All right, we'll get that in post. 3, 2, 1. Roll an intro. Let's go.
Did you hear an intro?
You want to try it again? When I do the countdown, you go as we go. All right, here we go.
But are we? No, but I just want to make clear. So we're supposed to hear an intro or not hear an intro?
I'm just going to count you down, and then we're going to go.
Okay.
We're going to get all this in post. Nobody's going to see this.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
3, 2.
You didn't say 1.
You did TV, right? You did Channel 6?
Yeah, but
okay.
in TV,
I know it was like
they
40
say,
years ago.
In TV, they go 5, 4, 3, and then they still kind of count you, or you hear the music.
All right. Here we go. We'll get all this in post.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Hi there. How are you? My name is Jake Query. That's Derek Schultz. This is the incredibly creative and always smooth with no interruption Query and Schultz program on the ISC Sports Network. And Derek, there is plenty to talk about today, including if you're talking about no interruption, that would not describe Tyrese Haliburton's recovery from a hamstring injury, right?
Yeah, so we learned earlier this morning that Tyrese Haliburton will miss the next 3 games at least as the Pacers are reevaluating the injury. Remember, he came back and played against Portland. Didn't quite look the same. I don't know if it was necessarily all the way noticeable, but now that we know what we know, you look back on it, you're like, maybe he wasn't quite ready yet. Troubling because the All-Star break is coming up, and he's such an important player for them, and they've got 3 big games here. Philly, Denver, Phoenix. Those are tough opponents. Even with a healthy Haliburton, those are tough opponents.
How many do they have left before the All-Star? We're 3 weeks from the All-Star.
3.5 weeks, basically. I think it's 24 days from – we're taping this right now on Tuesday. It's 24 days.
You just rest him then? You just go all the way through?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They'll do whatever is best for him and for them. But it is a little bit surprising. Hopefully there was no setback with the injury. 10 days was an aggressive timetable for that injury. And I know the Pacers never said it was 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it was. That was from reports from Adrian Wojnarowski and the national reporters. But 10 days for something like that was – felt a little rushed.
So it does raise the question, although it's a moot point, I guess. I mean, what's done is done. But was this something where, they just brought it back a little too early and said, let's scale it back? Or do you think something was retweaked? Kind of a moot point, I guess, right?
It'd all be speculation, right? I don't know. But I think you can look at this and be critical of how it was handled. Not that anybody was doing anything malicious. That's never the case. And of course, Haliburton wants to get out there and play. And we got contractors next door. They're renovating the house next to us, and it's just my ring alarm's just going off constantly.
Why don't you just mute
They're
it?
tearing down walls.
You're doing a television.
They got 2 dumpsters
broadcast
out there. Well, I want to make sure nobody's burglarizing my house either.
Well, you didn't even look at it. They could be right now. You wouldn't even know. You're just assuming that it's the neighbors and the dumpsters.
I have a couple of back cameras as well, and I just have an ear for nefarious activity. Like, I can kind of tell. I have like a spidey sense for that.
But you didn't even look. You don't even know what that was.
That's because I can just tell that the house is clear right now. They're just putting stuff into the dumpster probably.
And that sets off your...
Yeah, my side door faces the front door of my neighbor. My neighbor's house is this way.
Lord.
Yeah, it's a little quirky and weird. A little quirky.
So at any rate, for the Pacers, Haliburton going to miss 3 games minimum, right? 3 big ones during this home stretch. Mm-hmm. Denver, as you'd mentioned, Philadelphia, coming off Joel Embiid having 70 points in a game. And then who's the third one? Phoenix. Maybe it's because Tyrese Haliburton during the Phoenix game he missed was wearing a raincoat. I don't know, in the Valley of the Sun. But
we're old, man. We can't tell you what's cool and what's not. The only thing that'll never look cool to me, and I've seen this, is, and maybe Vince can speak to this. Vince is younger, and he's pretty cool. The white socks with black dress shoes thing, man, I can't do it.
I'm with you. Michael Jackson did it, though.
It looks so stupid.
It does.
Michael Jackson's allowed to do, God rest his soul, whatever he wants. Everybody else, like even Miles Turner. Miles Turner is a cool guy. He looks stupid with white socks and black dress shoes.
Well, Haliburton wears some weird shoe.
It's just a bad look. And the mom jeans coming back, like, come on. Like, I really like the tight jeans. I love my tight jeans. I don't want to go back. I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forwards.
What are mom jeans?
Like, you see all the girls now, like in their 20s and 30s, are wearing like the big like flare out like 1998 jeans now. Yeah, and I guess it's been a quarter century, so all that stuff cycles back around, right?
But Tyrese Haliburton might miss 3 games, but Pascal Siakam will get a chance to introduce himself to the fans of Indiana. That trade, a big one. I guess the question now becomes for a guy who has been an all-NBA second-team performer, a multiple-time All-Star, an NBA champion in Toronto, Pascal Siakam, in terms of how he fits in with Indiana. The question that I have, Derek, is this the big splash move? And is the new Batman-Robin tandem for the Indiana Pacers, Haliburton Siakam, or is there a third piece that is in the waiting somewhere out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think ideally Siakam is like your third guy on a championship team. But for the Pacers, he's a very good second guy, and he fulfills some big needs for them. You know, he is a rangy, lengthy defender. He's great at getting to the rim. He's a terrific scorer. He fits right into their offense. He fills a gap for them on defense. Like, the move makes a lot of sense. I actually think, Jake, it's kind of one of those things where it's almost like the move, because of what it represents, means
it
even
shows
more
they're
than
not
the
willing
move
to sit,
itself,
right?
Right? Yeah, like the fact that they had the guts to do this. You know, he's a free agent, so you have to sign him as well, and you probably have to max him. The fact that they decided that, you know what, yes, let's pounce on this and let's beat out a couple of other teams like Sacramento and some other teams that were interested and do this. I do think for a franchise like the Pacers, appearances do matter. And this, right? It looks good. This is what the fans wanted them to do. But obviously, he's a perfect fit for what the Pacers do.
This will stun you. Can I do a I told you so? Not you. But just an I told you so, and there's a reason why.
About Siakam?
Yes,
okay.
About the trade.
Yeah.
When there was word that the Pacers were on the cusp of a trade for Siakam, and it was Bruce Brown, picks, and then a salary match player, I sent a tweet that said, if I'm Indiana, the deal is off if the salary match is any of the three guys. These three guys, Isaiah Jackson, in no particular order. Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith, Buddy Hield. Now, Buddy Hield and Jalen Smith have contracts that are expiring at the end of the year, like Pascal Siakam. And somehow or another, somebody in Toronto got a hold of that, reposted it, and then, like the Toronto basketball experts came out of the woodwork. Who is this moron? You're an idiot. LOL that you would hold on to those guys instead of Pascal Siakam. And I'm like, I'm not telling you what I would do. I'm telling you what Indiana's going to do. Indiana is going to say, we are not parting. If you want Bruce Brown, that's cool. And 3 picks, that's cool. But we're not doing the combination of Bruce Brown and any of these 3 guys. Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson, and Buddy Hield. In combination with Bruce Brown, they weren't going to do it. And everybody's like, there's no way. You're talking about an all-NBA performer. You have what you just want them to give them away for free. And I'm like, okay, don't believe me. What happened? Jordan Nwora was the throw-in. I feel bad for Jordan Nwora because he feels like he's destined to be a salary throw-in.
Throw-in for a lot of teams. Yeah.
Right.
But the Pacers actually went out of their way to not include those guys because
Correct.
they recruited New Orleans to be part of that deal.
Correct.
The only reason they were able to make it work was because, what was it, Kira Lewis, the kid from New Orleans, they got him as part of that deal and tossed him over to Toronto, so they didn't have to part with anybody else.
Now, they're still going to have to figure out what they're going to do with Buddy Hield. And Buddy Hield, part of why they wanted to hold on to him, Derek, he may be like a sign-and-trade guy at the deadline to get them a younger piece. I mean, that is a possibility. Jalen Smith, I think they'd like to retain. And Isaiah Jackson, I don't think is going anywhere.
Well, but it's a logjam. You can't continue with Toppin, Jalen Smith, and Isaiah Jackson. There's not minutes for all 3 of those guys.
Toppin, I think, is gone, right?
Okay. Well, if that's who you think is gone, then that's
guy
fine.
that I think,
but it's got to be one of those 3.
I think Obi Toppin would be the one. And Smith is interesting because of the salary aspect of it and what they can get him for. And, if somebody comes in and offers Jalen Smith mid-tier money, I mean, he's gone. But I think Obi Toppin is the piece they'll move.
I mean, you're talking about 3 bench guys anyway. Like, all of those guys are useful and capable players, but I'm not losing any sleep.
But Isaiah Jackson, I'm telling you, I think Isaiah Jackson is the one that I hold on to because at his age and the way that he's come along in the last year, I think he has a very high ceiling.
He has the most potential, clearly, because we already kind of know what the other guys are. And but to be fair to Toppin and Smith were both guys that were cast-offs from their team that their teams gave up on. And they had career years in Indiana, right? Toppin's having a career year. Now he's getting a lot more minutes, so that's part of that. But he's shooting the ball a lot better than he ever has before. He's a good player, but there's just I guess you file it under the good problems to have category for the Pacers. But they have too many guys right now for a 10-man rotation or even a 9-man rotation. They've got too many guys.
Yeah, I mean, but it's a good problem to have versus.
And I do wonder, the trade deadline is it February 8th? When's the deadline?
Early February.
Yeah, early whatever it is. With this Haliburton injury, you got to play healed more, right? Because you're assuming Nembhard's going to go to the starting lineup. And all of
Nembhard's
that.
been banged up too.
And so does that affect how you were going to approach the trade deadline had everybody been healthy? That's another question to ask here because clearly I think the Pacers know deep down they're not a contender this year, but they also know that they want to win a playoff series.
But Derek,
right? They want to get there and do something.
This was a rebuild that has already now shifted into retool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, kudos to Chad Buchanan, Kevin Pritchard. They said a year ago, I mean, less than 18 months ago, they basically said, look, we're starting at the basement floor here and building it all the way up. And here they are. Yeah. And they have more upside, seemingly, than a lot of teams in the East.
They do. It's exciting. This is, it feels like we're on, and this is even before the Siakam trade. It feels like we're kind of on the ground floor of something special, and I think it is more sustainable. And I don't necessarily mean this to be a criticism, but of course it's going to end up being. It seems a little more sustainable than building your foundation of your team on a guy like Oladipo who had a great year in 17-18. But remember, even before the injuries, there were major questions like, can he be this guy going forward, or is this just one of those years where he kind of comes out of nowhere?
Turned into a flake.
Yeah.
Oladipo turned into a flake.
But I feel for him too.
Right?
And then his body just broke down. I mean, he just you know how many games he's played since leaving the Pacers?
Oh, I mean, he took a risk on himself and really
like
lost.
74, I think, is the actual. I looked it up the other night. I think he's played 74 games the last 3 years. Here's a better question.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. Victor Oladipo is currently contractually bound to what NBA team?
He's back in Houston, isn't he? I think he's back in Houston.
I thought he was in Oak City. Ended he is in Houston.
He ended last Houston, Miami. Did he go back to Oklahoma City in there and then Houston? I thought he was back in Houston.
But he's out, right?
Yeah, he's not playing right now. He hasn't. I don't think he's appeared in a game this season so far.
I was going to look that up.
If I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I mean it's sad. It's always sad when somebody bets on themselves and loses.
It's the story of our life.
Well, I mean it just it is what it is. But that was a star that burned out brightly.
He is with Houston. You are correct.
To kind of bring it back full circle, this feels more sustainable because it's kind of like in the NFL when you have your quarterback, then everything else feels easier. And the Pacers have their franchise cornerstone. And I'm not talking franchise cornerstone like Danny Granger. Danny Granger's not a franchise cornerstone. Danny Granger was like a fringe top 25 NBA player. Right?
Danny Granger, by the way, good player.
Yeah. A fringe top 25 NBA player.
Proverbial 20-25 guy.
Well, yeah, a great scorer and a great but he had a nice career, right? And then Oladipo, I think, was a little bit better than that, but Oladipo was a fringe all-NBA guy. Tyrese Haliburton is probably a top 10 player, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't think if you don't think he's a top 10 player, you're not getting far into the teens with him. And there's room for growth. He's going to get
how
just
many guys
better
right
from there.
now?
Oh God. See, yeah, I knew you were going to put me on the spot with this.
No, hold on. No, okay. Players right now in the NBA that you would say are definitively better than Tyrese Haliburton. Luka Doncic,
Jokic,
right?
Yeah, Giannis, Embiid.
Any born in the U.S.?
I mean, I think Anthony Edwards is a better player right now.
Okay.
Than Tyrese Haliburton.
Do you still?
I mean, would you take Shai with?
I think he's probably a draw, right? Okay, Karl Anthony Towns?
No, I don't think so. I mean, at this point, are Durant and LeBron?
Anthony Davis?
Yeah. Kind of right there. I'm trying to think. Let me look and I don't know. Gun to my head, I'd probably take Booker. I'd take Wemby just because of the upside.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're asking me would I do a 1-for-1 today, I would do that. I mean, Steph, right?
Well, yeah.
Is there anybody else that we're obviously
Damian Lillard?
missing? No, not at this point.
Okay.
Not at this point. I think Lillard is more like a top 20 to 25 player. Oh, Jason Tatum.
Oh,
Yeah.
And Jaylen Brown might be
Yeah.
there too. But yeah, I mean, right there, we're starting to.
I mean, we're
have to think
at a
hard, and we're
dozen.
at 9.
Is that a dozen?
No, we're at 9.
Okay, 9. Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're in that next kind of category. He's right there.
John Morant?
No.
Really? No. Too much baggage?
No. Too much. Yeah.
Amongst other things?
Too much going on. I mean, Kawhi.
Ooh. Paul George? Paul George, who, by the way, said, Derek.
Who's been good this year.
And Paul George has said that he has been intrigued by coming back to Indiana to play with Tyrese Haliburton. Question is now, do they have are they going to have, if they sign Siakam, are they going to have them the flexibility to be able to get a third player? So there are questions still.
But when you're the Pacers, you don't have the luxury. You can't be like the Lakers or even the Knicks and just kind of sit back and wait and be like, yeah, we'll have that available to us later.
The Knicks.
Well, because of the people want to play in New York. People want to play in L.A.
Nobody wants to play in New York anymore. That's a narrative that's 30 years past its prime.
No one wants to play in Indianapolis.
I don't disagree with that,
Yeah.
and I love New York City and I love the Garden, and I get what you're saying, but let's put that to bed because who's the last marquee free agent that went to New York?
Brunson?
Okay.
Actually, did they trade for him?
I think they traded for him, didn't they? But I mean, you get my point, right?
Who was in that deal?
I'm totally with you, but I think it's an archaic thought.
Tim Hardaway Jr. Who was even in that trade? Maybe I'm mixing. Maybe I'm thinking of the Porzingis trade. Might have been Tim Hardaway Jr. I don't know. I might be going back. My Knicks fandom is non-existent now.
And clouding your judgment on the relevance of New York. Yes.
My point is, Jake. Okay, so Miami. Just give me another big market. New York was the one that came to mind. Chicago. I still think those markets can attract
Miami
frontline
for sure.
free agents.
I think it's more about weather in Miami.
More than Indianapolis or Minnesota.
By the way, did you see the Twitter poll that I had, which was what are the 4 least desirable NBA cities to live?
Yeah, people are drunk.
I mean, the people that were
People are so stupid.
Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, and Portland, and I'm like, look, they all have their challenges. Don't get me wrong. But Los Angeles, there's 16 million people that live there for a reason.
Yeah.
I know it's expensive, taxes, okay, whatever.
Why does everybody want to be there? Yeah.
Would you rather live would you rather be having dinner overlooking the Pacific Ocean at sunset in 72-degree weather or in Memphis?
Yeah, look, I love
Detroit.
Let me preface by saying I love Indianapolis. We've built our life here, and I didn't grow up here, right? So clearly, I have the credentials that say that I do love Indianapolis. If you ask that question to anyone outside the state of Indiana, I would say it's near unanimous that Indianapolis is somewhere in that top 4.
Yeah, it's the Oklahoma City, right?
There is the weather's not great, and there's nothing to look at.
Yeah, it's
You know what I mean, as much as Indy's a cool town, there's nothing to see.
I have always said
no mountains, no water.
I have always said Indianapolis has done the best possible job a city can do when it's geographically starving.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, and I'm not talking, well, there are lakes around. No, man, you're comparing Lake Wawasee to Santa Monica Pier. Give me a break.
It's just Wawasee.
Yeah.
It's not Wawasee.
Okay,
it's
well, whatever it is.
Well, I'm trying to Hoosierize you. Wawasee.
Yeah. Like some hole in the ground with brown water, that's not the water.
Well, it's not that.
The water is the water.
Lake Syracuse is attached to it. I mean,
the Great Lakes, that's the water. The York Beach in Maine, that's the water.
What about Indiana
Santa
Beach?
Monica Pier, that's the water. No, Indiana Beach is not the water.
Beautiful Lake Monticello?
No. Yeah, no. That's not the water.
Lake Schaefer, sorry, Monticello,
Yeah.
Indiana.
Look, to each their own. I know people like to do that. They like to get in an inner tube with a Keystone Light and float around. To me, that's not the water. There's the water, and then let's go to
of course.
Let's go to the old swimming hole. That's. Yeah.
Do you want to know a weird fun fact?
What's that?
I don't swim in anything that has living organisms in it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, all water has some sort of living organism in it.
But I mean,
you mean like algae and
no, I mean
okay.
If there are fish potentially in that water, I don't want to get in it.
I remember this is years ago. This was maybe the first year of the show. If it wasn't the first year of the show, it was the second year of the show. And it was before you had kind of started regularly running again. And we went to the Monon Center.
Yeah.
And you got in the pool because they wanted you to get in the pool, and you had to take your shirt off to get in the pool. And I was going to take a picture of you going off the diving board and put it on the Facebook page. And you started screaming at me.
Well, you've got to know
from
boundaries.
the diving board.
Right.
because you were a little huskier.
It's back though.
Then
my gut's back.
You were a little huskier.
Was I bigger then than now?
Oh yeah, you got pretty big there for a second. Remember those old pictures we saw from like early George Hill show? I mean, you got big there for a second, which is fine. I mean, I remember when I first took the job, I was lifting like 4 times a week, so it was muscle weighs more than fat, but I was thicker for sure.
Yeah,
I was still drinking pretty regularly then.
Okay.
That's the other part of it.
Menthol smokes. By the way, big news for Indiana and Purdue both, so we've got a lot to talk about coming up. Right,
we do, yeah. Let's get to our Hoagie and Hero of the Week as we transition into college hoop.
All right.
Brought to you by our friends at Hoagies and Hops, 42nd and Boulevard, and also we got our chili water brew right here.
This is slightly different than what you brought last week, but you thought it was this week, right?
Yeah, so I thought I had gotten the brotherly love last week. We had the Market Street last week, which is really good. That has the salami on the Thousand Island. This is just salami, ham, turk, prove, oil, LT.
Turkey, provolone, and lettuce and tomato.
Good thing.
The same, the bread is fabulous.
Yeah. Shipped in. Oh, sorry, lettuce. From South Jersey. Christina gets a shipment of East Coast bakery bread every single week. So all the sandwiches, all the sandos,
Derek,
all the cheesesteaks
start over. You
go
had
on
your
the South Jersey bread.
Okay.
She gets the South Jersey bread shipped in. Also, the Dietz and Watson meats come in right from PA. That's good.
You're dropping stuff all over the place.
That's a lot of girth. It's just like a hearty sandwich.
Well, half of it's on the floor.
Really excited about this, too. New beer alert.
Love it. Woo. And this is, by the way,
Chili Water Brew, Temple of the Dog, double New England IPA.
Listen.
And it's a collab between them and Black Dog Brewing Company.
Do you know what happens when you drink Temple of the Dog? Watch. You ready? I don't mind.
I thought you were going to go right to the chorus.
From the mouths of decadence.
Go hungry.
Well, I can feed on the powerless when my cup's already over.
How big was that song?
It's great.
When would that have come out? 94?
Well, it was recorded much earlier because after the fact, Eddie Vedder and Chris Cornell said, hey, we had recorded some stuff earlier. So I think it came out in probably like 93.
Would it have been around like Vitology, or would it have been a different?
Yeah.
Okay.
92 or 3, I think, is when it came out, but it had been recorded in like 90.
Pearl Jam, I always get mixed up like Beasties. The chronological order of the album, I always screwed up. But was it 10 versus Vitology?
Yes.
Okay.
Which one has the
llama or whatever?
Yes. That was number 2.
That was 10.
No.
Versus. Vitology was like the little medical book. Remember, it was like the old school.
The third one.
Like 19. Remember when CDs were cool, man? You'd buy them and you'd go through it and you'd see like the art in
them.
How
about albums? I mean, before that, I'm old enough to remember that.
CDs were awesome. I miss CDs. I obviously albums were before my time.
Keep talking because I'm taking another.
New England IPA, so a little fruitier, a little hoppier, and just a little sexier. I mean, New England. What else comes from New England, right?
They get one
Sexy.
right every once in a while.
Hot.
This is
Sultry.
really good, and it's a super cool can. I don't know if they can zoom in. That's a cool can, man.
Oh, real smooth. Really smooth.
Very
and
good.
8.5 ABV.
Very good.
Yeah. So if you really want to put down a few of these, you'll have a good time. We don't condone that here on the show, by the way. We are social drinkers here on. I had
I love the hop on it.
we had bingo night the other night at St. Thomas, and could walk back and forth and got a little for like the first time in a long time.
You?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't. And you never have, right?
What?
Like gotten
Played bingo?
No. I know you played bingo.
No, yeah,
but
no, you're right.
I mean, a personal choice.
No,
I'm not
honestly.
trying to make fun of you.
Honestly, yeah,
I'm
I've
telling you
never-
seriously.
Like, it would be hard to find somebody that's like, man, I was with him, and, he
Yeah.
was out there. I've never Jason Kelsey'd.
There you go. Hero of the week. This is a guy that I think is almost becoming underappreciated just because it's so expected what he's doing. Zach Edey, his last 3 games, he's gone for at least 30 points and 10 rebounds, all 3 Purdue wins. They smoked Indiana, which we'll talk about coming up here in just a little bit. He's a heavy favorite for National Player of the Year again. And, Jake, I think you're in the same category as me. It would be very, very difficult for me to come off of Glenn Robinson being the best player in Purdue. I think pound for pound, the best player in Purdue basketball history. And the other people that are in that, probably the only two other people that are in that conversation, the only other one that's in that conversation is Rick Mount, right?
Correct.
Because I don't think you'd say that about Joe Barry Carroll, who I know was a top overall pick, or maybe Dissinger would be somewhere in there. And I think E'Twaun Moore, Jawan Johnson would be like the next tier. Troy Lewis would be like the next tier of player. But if he's back-to-back NPOY and Purdue goes to Phoenix for the Final Four, I mean, at that point, Derek, right? Wouldn't you kind of have to say that he's the best player in program history?
I just talked to somebody recently that said that Zach Edey actually is playing his way into not just the first round in the draft, but perhaps the front end of the first round. And I'll tell you why.
It helps him that it's a bad class, too.
Correct.
Right?
It's a bad class, and what I was told was he is a known commodity. Sure, Zach Edey as an NBA player may never exceed, let's say, 10 points and 8 rebounds a game for a career, but he's going to give you that for 12 years. And I think that there is a safety in that, and there's a value in this year's draft of, you know what, let's just go with the safe pick and a guy that we know is going to help us for a long time. And he's probably underappreciated in terms of his shooting touch, and I think he has more range than Purdue allows him to show. But as the process moves along, you watch Zach Edey as we get closer to the draft, you will start hearing his name. This is a Jake Query prediction. Late January 2023, I'm here to tell you, from now until the NBA draft, Zach Edey, barring injury, knock on wood, his stock will only continue to increase week by week to the point where he is discussed as a top 20 selection in the draft.
He's much more athletic than people give him credit for. Like if you watch, and he was a really good player too and had a cup of coffee in the NBA, but if you watch tape of Zach Edey compared to, let's say, like Isaac Haas, it's not even close. Like the footwork and the feel for the game.
Admittedly, him running the floor at the pace the NBA does is probably
sure, and that's not going to change. There are some things that Zach Edey can't change, but can he maximize what he is and take what will translate and make it translatable in the NBA? Sure he can.
Yeah.
He's going to have a chance. I mean, Jake, we were having the same conversation, and look, they're very different players, but we were having the same conversation last year about Trayce Jackson-Davis, where, you know, people didn't think he was a pro, and look, clearly he's a pro. Like, is he a star? Probably not, but he's already made his way into an NBA rotation.
Other side of the Purdue-Indiana rivalry in terms of the Big Ten is the Indiana side, and we got to get to that next, right there.
Yeah, let's do it, and we'll do a dive into the program where they are. It's not so great as we continue the hoops conversation, plus plenty of NFL talk, of course, here on Query and Schultz. Episode 170, stick around on the ISC Sports Network.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey and Wood Financial Group presents Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. He's Jake Query. I'm Derek Schultz. Show goes in alphabetical order, so it's a 50-50 partnership. But we like to say it's Query and Schultz. Just don't want people to get it twisted. It's important to me to clarify that every once in a while here on the show.
It's more than alphabetical, but that's okay.
Bailey and Wood Financial Group is our presenting sponsor, BAWFG.com. 855-350-HOME. Sorry about Mike and his Dolphins, but congratulations. I don't think we mentioned this on the show. It happened a couple of weeks ago. His oldest, his daughter, Bailey, who I think is their promotional point person, runs the show over there for all their social media stuff, engaged. So congratulations to Bailey for getting engaged, and congratulations to Mike. I can't imagine. I'm a dad of a son, so you know, that doesn't really hit you like that when it's your son, but your daughter getting engaged and growing up and all of that. Like I have buddies that are girl dads, and man, It takes a special person because I would just be an emotional wreck all the time.
Right.
I'm like very protective about the women
Well-
in my life with my sisters and my mom and my wife and all of that. But
You know who else is protective of your sister is that brother-in-law that wanted to fight me.
Yeah, Dan. Dan's a great brother-in-law. Dan's a great brother. Well, you cursed at him. You told him to do something that was impossible, physically impossible for him to do to himself.
That's not true.
That was a little bit of a problem.
Bit of a misunderstanding.
We had mentioned Zach Edey and the win for Purdue at Indiana was the biggest win since 1934 in Bloomington, that is, in the series. And Indiana then turned around and lost to Wisconsin for the 20th straight time and the 25th straight year. And I think the Wisconsin game was far less close than the final score indicated. Indiana was never really in that game, but it ended up being a little bit of a backdoor cover. I know a lot of people had a problem. Look, Purdue is significantly better than Indiana, okay?
A lot of teams are significantly better
Let's
than
just
Indiana.
get that out of the way. Talent-wise, it's really not even close.
Derek, Purdue is significantly better than a lot of teams, and a lot of teams are significantly better than Indiana. So that shows you how
Sure.
big the gap is.
That said, even when you're under-talented or less talented than the team you're playing, you have to control the things you can control, and effort is one of those, and hustle and all of that. And I just think it really stuck with people. Not to be all cheeseball and well, Indiana in 49 states, it's just basketball, and here in Indiana. But there's an element of truth to that. Zach Edey diving on the floor really resonated with people, didn't
While
it?
Khalil Ware stood there
Purdue
and watched?
and Indiana fans. Yeah, I think it stuck with them because it's just an example of where both programs are culturally right now.
Let me give a memo here to Mike Woodson, okay? Mm-hmm. Here's my message to Mike Woodson. Not like he's going to listen, right?
Maybe.
Mike Woodson is a great story. He was a great player at Broad Ripple High School. He was obviously a great player at Indiana, and he was a very good, long-tenured NBA player and has always served well representing Indiana University. And Indiana fans, like myself, for a very long time, have been very, very proud to say Mike Woodson is an alum and a product of Indiana University basketball. And there was a lot of, I guess, peace of mind for Indiana fans when Mike Woodson was handed the keys to the kingdom, because we are in Indiana, if nothing else. I wouldn't say that we're a xenophobic group, but we're one that finds comfort with familiarity. And we felt like Mike Woodson was somebody that could drive the car because he knew exactly what was needed to baby that car to get it to drive the way that we have been so used to seeing it in the left-hand lane of the interstate of college basketball. But where Mike Woodson has erred, in my opinion, is that Mike Woodson, coming off of the NBA, thought that running a college basketball program was simply about finding NBA-level players and letting them play the game in a more open style. That style doesn't work if you have players that can't shoot the basketball. That style doesn't work if you have players that don't understand the role pieces of being complementary to those that need to score the basketball for you. And that style doesn't work if you prioritize national rankings and NBA prospect over understanding truly the value of being a team concept at the college level representing Indiana University. And when you have guys like Khalil Ware that needed NIL money just to come and make an official visit to Indiana, and you have guys like Mackenzie Mbako who had committed to Duke, but then strangely Duke decided at the last minute that they didn't want him, so Indiana took him. You have to ask yourself whether or not those players are completely bought in to the long-term vision of turning around a program as opposed to using it for a short-term catapult to getting them to the level they want to be and simply having Indiana be a stop along the way. It's fine if you want to get big-time players like that, but you have to also understand that that short-term stop along the way does not get you long-term sustained success, and that's why there's apathy amongst the Indiana fan base. That's why there's disappointment amongst the Indiana fan base, and that's why when you have players that look like their own personal goals and vision prioritize and take precedent over that of the program itself, you have people that are completely checked out, and that's why Indiana fans are totally over it and ready for a change.
Yeah, I feel bad. Let me say this. I feel bad for Indiana fans. They have an incredible – I was part of it for many, many years. They have an incredible fan base, an incredible following that desperately wants to see them do well. But one thing that is starting to bother me, and I think at this point we should be over it, is this arrogance about them being – this great program. You know, I used to do that when I was a student there. That was 20 years ago.
Right.
And in the 20 years since then, Indiana's done nothing. right? I mean, how many times, Jake, this century has Indiana had back-to-back good seasons?
Right.
12 and 13. Okay, they went to the Sweet 16, and then they went to the Sweet 16 both years, and then they were number one, right, in 13. I guess maybe the Davis into Sampson years, where Davis's last year they went to the tournament, won a game.
Derek, you think about even like when they were the number one seed in the tournament, that was over a decade ago.
Yeah.
I mean, a kid right now in college basketball, if you're recruiting, okay, this is a sobering reality. Right now, how old is a player that like is far along the recruiting process? A sophomore, maybe a junior?
Far along?
Yeah.
I mean, the cutoff is sophomore, probably,
Okay,
if
so-
they're a prominent player.
So 16.
Yeah.
Right? So if you are 16 years old right now, that means that you were 5 when Indiana was the number one seed in the NCAA tournament. Now, Derek, you were born in what year?
83.
Okay. So how big a deal were Jay Edwards and Lyndon Jones to you? Or Danny Manning? Danny Manning's Kansas team was how big a deal to you?
The first teams that I really remember would have been like 90 into like the Leitner
Like probably
and Duke years.
I was going to say
Yeah.
Fab Five or Duke,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
Yeah.
So I would have missed that window.
So to
barely.
today's player that you're recruiting, Victor Oladipo and Cody Zeller are old news to them.
No.
They have no idea who they are. They've heard of them. And that's like the most recent group of greatness, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I figured this out. Mike Woodson, okay? So we'll do quick math here. And I know that he coached in the NBA, but Mike Woodson as a college player, okay, to today's, if a kid is 16 years old today, that means that he was born in what year? 2008?
Yeah.
Okay.
God, that's
So he was born 28 years after Mike Woodson finished playing college basketball, okay? You were born in what year?
83.
Okay, so how relevant was a player who was like the top college basketball player of 1955? B.H. Bourne?
Yeah,
So how big a deal would it have been to you if B.H. Bourne...
Wilt?
Wilt?
He had been around there, or 53, 54?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, right around there.
I mean,
Yeah.
would you have been like, oh my gosh?
Yeah, no, and look, the problem, Jake, isn't Mike Woodson has recruited fine if you look at star
You're right.
rankings, but that's all Indiana ever wants to look at is star rankings, and what has that gotten you? What has Noah Vonleh and guys
Derek.
like that gotten you?
Okay, the 5-star one-and-done level players for Indiana in the last 10 years. Noah Vonleh. Thomas Bryant, was he a 5-star?
I think James Blackman
James
Jr.
Blackman Jr.
They had a couple of good teams with him.
Hunter Perea.
Yeah.
Romeo Langford. Romeo Langford's averaging 7 points a game in the G League.
Yeah.
Christian Lander, 4 points a game at Western Kentucky.
And it's just,
Peter Jerkin.
I have a buddy that is an IU guy, and he's like, yeah, they were talking about Brandon Smith and not recruiting him. Yeah, well, we're real sorry that, we didn't look at a 2.5-star point guard. And I'm like, well, that 2.5-star point guard is going to kick your ass for the next 4 years.
No question.
So,
No question.
you can take the star rankings to me are completely meaningless once the guys get to campus and they start going. And I'm not saying that Indiana needs to just start getting, a bunch of 5'8" guards who only throw bounce passes that play in Lagodi. I'm just saying that Indiana needs to mix those guys in.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
You need to have some of that because you used to have that on the truly great Indiana teams. You didn't just have, a bunch of star players, and they certainly had a lot of great All Big Ten, All American level players, but they also had complementary pieces.
Here's another question,
Indiana
Derek.
doesn't even have that.
I'll tell you a big-time recruit they had, Tamar Bates, that couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Goes to Missouri, puts up 36 the other night, shooting 50% from three-point range.
Well, I mean, look at, Caleb Banks is a top 100 guy. What does Caleb Banks do? Like, what does he bring to the table? Like, you've seen him play, right? And you're like, what's the big deal? I mean, you saw it right away with Lander that he wasn't ready, but some of those guys,
Lander's
these guys
still
that
not
they
ready.
get, you're just like Jeremy Hollowell. I remember they got him, and he was
okay.
It
Last
was
thing.
nothing.
Last thing for Indiana basketball. Memo to him: Xavier Johnson. It's over.
Yeah,
It's over
at this point.
It doesn't. I don't care if this guy catches lightning in a bottle. Great, he gets you into the tournament with one game. If nothing else, you need to stand up for something. You need to let it be known that 1 strike, 2 strikes, 3 strikes, you're out. You're going in there, you're getting flagrant fouls, you're driving 90 miles an hour up Walnut, you're getting suspended for leaving the team hotel when you're on the road, and then you come in off injury and literally like you're shooting as well as Derek and I would. Xavier Johnson might be a nice young man. I don't know him at all, but he's been given a gabillion opportunities. He's older than 9 members of the Indiana Pacers, and he's one of the 10 oldest players in Division I college basketball and plays like a freshman that is still trying to figure out what maturity is all about. Thanks for the time. Time to move on.
One of their losing bets. I mean, if you want to criticize Woodson for this year, I think the bets that he made, he bet on Xavier Johnson being late 2022. Remember, last year was kind of a lost year for Xavier Johnson because he was banged up.
Right.
He bet on him being the late season player that he last was when he was healthy. And obviously, he's been a net negative, I think, for this season. He bet on Trey Galloway continuing kind of a flukish shooting season last year, and Trey Galloway went right back down, at least three-point shooting wise, right? And look, I kind of feel bad for Trey Galloway because Trey Galloway is only supposed to be like your 6th or 7th
Trey
guy.
Galloway doesn't know from one game to the next what position he is, Derek, because he's like, oh, today I'm playing point, tomorrow I'm shooting.
If you're relying on Trey Galloway to be like your 3rd best player, like he's not capable of doing that, at least not on a nightly basis.
Now, he's a nice-looking guy, isn't he, Trey
And
Galloway?
then, he is very much so.
I bet he does
and
well.
he's a tough kid. I mean, Trey Galloway's the kind of guy that Indiana, I think, needs, honestly. Guys like that.
As your 6th man, yes.
Yeah.
You are correct.
But and then the depth, Jake. I mean, CJ Gunn, I really like CJ Gunn. I like his family. I think he might be a good player someday. He's not ready to be a good player right now. Caleb Banks is not ready to be a good player right now. And then, there's no depth.
Right.
Really, it's a team that has 3 guys.
And they can't shoot, Derek.
Yeah, and they can't shoot.
In today's college basketball, you got to be able to shoot.
Yeah.
By the way, it's time for Love That Play, brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. They are fabulous, I know, because just 2 weeks ago when it got really cold, Shannon had a furnace issue called Love, and she was like, Jake, they were so friendly when they came out. And I'm like, of course, and 24-hour on-call maintenance. They treat you like family. 4th-generation family-owned business, over 100 years in central Indiana. Love-HVAC.com is their website, 317-353-2141. Bringing you each and every week our favorite play of the weekend.
I loved it. There's a Purdue tie-in here, but I think this would have been the Love That Play regardless because Derek Barnes, who is a former Boilermaker, had his Marlon Jackson moment, I think, right? For the Detroit Lions, where they're going back to the NFC Championship game for only the second time
pick,
ever.
I think?
Yeah, and how about this, Jake? Do you know how many playoff wins in the Super Bowl era the Detroit Lions had going into this year?
I'm going to get into this year?
Going into this year. So 60 whatever years.
In the Super Bowl era.
In the Super Bowl era. Because they had won NFL championships back in like the 50s and beforehand.
They went to the January of 92 conference championship.
Yeah, 91 they lost to the Redskins.
So I'm going to say that they had to win the divisional round but didn't have a wild card round that year. So I'll say 1.
Yeah, that's it.
Are you serious?
That's it. Yeah. They had been to the wild card a bunch and had lost a bunch. Remember with Caldwell they went a couple of years and had lost a bunch. But yeah, they have doubled their playoff win total.
They're America's team right now, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it has to be.
But here's the thing. Does the road end here?
I think it does. I think San Francisco survived their scare.
I'm all in. Lions, Super Bowl, let's go. I'm all in.
I just think it's time.
I'm wearing Lions colors right now. I'm all in on
I'm all
Detroit.
in too. But if you're asking me to predict what's going to happen, I just think this is finally the breakthrough. The Niners have been knocking on the door for like 10 years here. I think this is finally the breakthrough.
It's hard to argue that.
I can't believe the Packers
Fighting
blew that
Mottmans.
game,
Dr. Mottman, a
by the
Lions
way.
fan, Derek. I'm obligated now, right?
Yeah, for sure. And we've got a lot of friends that are Lions people as well, long-suffering Lions people.
Tracy Forner.
Good start. A guy, Derek Robertson, who used to be an Indy Monthly editor of mine, long-suffering. James Briggs, the columnist for the Indy Star, long-suffering Lions guy. Good start to Barnes' career. He started 23 of 46 games, and now basically if he, and I hope this doesn't happen, but if he had like a spinal injury tomorrow, he could live off of this moment probably for the rest of his life.
That was when you come to Purdue players in the pros, you don't go with spinal injury, by the way. If he decides to retire tomorrow, how's that? That was not an easy interception. It's not like it was right in the breadbasket. It was a hell of a play.
I mean, Marlon Jackson is more relevant than, Kelvin Hayden had a really nice
You're
career.
right.
Like Kelvin Hayden had a huge interception in a Super
He had a
Bowl.
pick six, right.
And we don't talk about it at all because it's, the Marlon Jackson moment is like, that trumps anything that happened in the Bears game. Like that was the moment of that run of Colts Indy history. That is the moment. And maybe for Barnes, I mean, unless they do something crazy in this NFC Championship game or in the Super Bowl, maybe that lives on for him.
Do you think that Kyle Guy, do you think like when he walks through Virginia, people still know who he is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think because how many times has Virginia
Yeah.
I think everybody knew that the stars had aligned
Hitting those free throws pretty big, though,
for
right?
that to happen. Yeah, I mean, they had. I'm not a big believer in like fate and all of that.
did a good job.
Go back and watch the finish of. Maybe don't watch the finish of the Purdue game, but go back and watch if you have the stomach for it. Virginia Purdue, then watch Virginia Auburn, then watch Virginia Texas Tech, and you tell me if there weren't greater forces at play with how the last 45 seconds of each of those games went.
Fair. That's fair.
Like if you were to replay all three of those games in the same exact scenarios, Virginia 1 out of 10 billion times wins all three.
Listen, the Virginia game with Purdue, after you watch that and you're disappointed, then go back and watch Purdue against Tennessee and you'll feel better.
There you go. Yeah, the Ryan Klein game, as we call it in the Schultz
he was
household.
just
Yeah, that was great. Yeah. That was really great. And sadly for Ryan Klein, he missed the free throw that would have pushed the lead to 4 in that Virginia game. You remember? Grady Eifert got the offensive rebound. Purdue's up 2. And you're thinking, oh, my God.
I'd like to apologize for
oh,
the
my
Purdue
God,
fans.
this is happening. People are hugging and crying in Louisville. I laughed to stop from crying. And then, Ryan Klein is a fantastic shooter, fantastic free throw shooter. And
Okay. Thank you to the Purdue people that have watched the program.
should we get that in post?
What do we do? Yeah, probably.
All right.
You work there for crying out
3,
loud.
2. Yeah, I might. I don't know if
Used
I'm
to, at
allowed
least.
contractually to bring that up.
Yeah,
I don't have to see on
What are we
that.
doing next?
Quick hits.
Okay.
IUPUI Jags report. We had a great Saturday afternoon. Little
Good.
day basketball, Midtown hoops. We'll talk about that when we come back. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
IUPUI basketball is back. Come witness history with head coach Matt Crenshaw inside Indiana Farmers Coliseum and head coach Kate Bruce inside the Jungle as they usher in a new era of Jaguars athletics. Be there for exciting Horizon League and in-state matchups. Affordable fun for the whole family. Full season tickets are now on sale starting as low as $80. Order today at IUPUIJags.com/tickets or call 317-278-2530. Work hard, make noise, have fun. Go Jags.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned, and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network. My name is Jake Query. Derek Schultz to my left. It is time for the wildly popular, shockingly unsponsored Quick Hits. Right, Derek?
It is shockingly unsponsored. I agree with you. Thank you for saying that. If you want to sponsor, Derek at QueryandSchultz.com, or you can call Jake. He gives his phone number out like every day on his radio show if you're listening between 12 and 3 p.m. Congratulations to Stanford's Tara Vanderveer, who is an IU grad. The winningest major college basketball coach, men's or women's, passing Coach K.
Can I guess the number?
Yeah. You know it's over 1,000 because I'm sure you remember Bob Knight's number by heart.
1,068.
No, higher.
1,132.
Even higher than that.
1,209.
Very close. Little lower.
1,206.
1,203. 1,203 wins. Got it over the
Amazing.
weekend. She's won 3 national championships there. She's gone to 13 Final Fours, which is incredible during a 40-season run at Stanford. They're currently 18-2 and ranked 8th in the country.
So who is next? I hate to say it this way. Gino REM has got to be close, though, right?
Yeah, you would think. I actually didn't even look, but I think Gino's over 1,000 now, and I think he'll stay on. He's the kind of guy that would stay on to get that mark. He just incredible basketball coach, right? And that program is unbelievable. They built that just like Jim Calhoun did. They built that from nothing. I mean, Storrs, Connecticut is a hellhole. Sorry to my UConn friends, it sucks. But he's always kind of been like smarmy to me.
He is that.
Gino knows that he's great, I think. And the people that know that they're great always rub me the wrong way. Our thoughts with Ryan Sandberg. Yeah, you definitely. Announcing his cancer diagnosis. So sad news. I mean,
prostate cancer, right?
Yeah. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame back in 2005. He's 64, and he has spent the last 7-8 years. Remember, he had a managerial career. He was like the interim for the Phillies.
He had a daughter that lives in the area. I don't know if she still does.
Yeah, we had him on the old radio show, and she was in Carmel, right?
He was driving on his way.
Yeah.
Remember, we had him on the radio show. It could not have been a nicer guy.
Carmel or Zionsville. It was one of those two.
But he could not have been a nicer guy.
Yeah. And he really is one of those guys where I think, and he was a tremendous player, but I think that his identity, for lack of a better term, is lifted by the fact that he was so beloved.
Oh.
Like you talk to any Cubs fan, and I think he is. I guess my uncle's generation would be Ernie Banks, but for any other Cubs fan,
For sure.
Under the age of 50, it's Ryan Sandberg.
I mean, he was automatic as a defender, obviously. And then, of course, the Cardinals game where he hit the home runs. I mean, very good could hit for power, clutch player, great player.
One of those guys that the first name that comes up when you mention the Chicago Cubs, I think people say Ryan Sandberg. Simon Pagino in the news. Nathan Brown of the Indy Star had a report on him recovering from that horrible crash in Mid-Ohio that ended his season. And, he's 39 now. He's still hoping to get a ride, but it doesn't look like there are going to be any seats at the table for him for a full-time ride. But I would hope that a 500 seat would open up.
I would hope so. I don't know, and there may be those that are hesitant just because of the fact that he was coming off a major concussion like that. But could not be a nicer guy.
No, a wonderful guy.
Could not be a nicer guy.
Wonderful guy. And you hope, even I want to see as many living and capable 500 winners in the field as possible. Even Buddy Lazier and his Toyota Tercel. Go out there and do like 10 laps.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm like, give a little wave to the crowd. Like, it's important to me to see the 400
It's always
winners
cool
in the race.
correct. In the grid of 33 to see the little W is cool.
And then we get to go, do you take a former winner or the field? Like, that was always one of my favorite questions for the 500 as well. Time for our IUPUI Jags report.
Listen, Derek.
We could have given an in-person one.
I want to point this out again. Derek and I had the pleasure on Saturday of going to the Fairground Coliseum and watching IUPUI. Actually, thank you to IUPUI because they took good care of us, Greg Ragstra, actually, more specifically, and gave us great seats for the game. But it was wonderful. I just to go there, and you're watching, again, big-time Division I athletics. The speed, the size of the athletes is very, very impressive. And it just is, there's Derek's son watching it, and that's the key to it all. I mean, the fact that you can go down there, take your kids, watch in a fabulous arena, watching Division I athletes, many of which played high school basketball in the area, and it was great. There was everything about it I thought was a total home run and affordable as well.
I'm a huge homer, and I know that they're planning a new arena. I love the State Fairgrounds Coliseum. It's got a lot of character.
It's cool.
It's a neat place. I'm not just saying that because it's in Midtown, and I live in Midtown, and you live in Midtown, and we love Midtown. But yeah, it's a great place to watch.
Nobody says Midtown, by the way.
Vincent Brady, one of those from Cathedral, who's a local kid that plays for IUPUI, and it was great. Thanks to Lauren, their fabulous staff. Luke, the AD, came over. It was super nice. He had the red Indy flag shoes on. Cool guy who I think is going to do great things in running the athletics as they transition from IUPUI to IU Indianapolis. It was a lot of fun.
It was great.
A lot of fun. Christy Lee was there. We ran into and her husband. And a couple of other
My
people.
buddy Greg Simmons was there. It was great.
A couple people stopping, you'd be like, hey, you're Derek Schultz. And it's always cool.
That was Christy Lee that said that.
Sometimes those could be a little bit problematic, like when I'm out to eat and it's like, hey, you're Derek Schultz. I want to take a picture. Can you sign this? But overall, I like it. It's the cross I bear.
When has that ever happened to you?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Constantly. Ready for the report?
Sure.
Bump, 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 bump. So it was a not a great afternoon for the men's basketball team, the Jags, against Robert Morris when we were there, but they did score a huge road win last week at Purdue-Fort Wayne, 85-79. They shot a season-high 59% in the dub. Jalen Counter, we mentioned him a lot on these reports, led with 18 points. DJ Jackson added 17 off the bench. Counter's 23, unfortunately not enough for their loss to Robert Morris. They continue their homestand this week, hosting Youngstown State Thursday night. Free koozies to the first 100 fans. And Wright State on Sunday, which is nonprofit day at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum. Men's and women's track and field hosting the IUPUI Invitational, the 26th and 27th at the brand spanking new Indiana Farm Bureau Fall Creek Pavilion. David Woods had an article about it this week, and I thought it looked spectacular. Right. They're going to get some world-class events there. Located as well right inside the State Fairgrounds in Midtown. Tickets only available for purchase on site. $10 a head. Doors open 9 a.m. both days. See some great track and field action. Women's hoops Tough time with defending Horizon champ Cleveland State. They lost that game, but Katie Davidson and Abby Walterman and Jasmine Turner all scored in double digits in the loss. They're back at home this week in the Jungle. Spirit Week, Jam the Jungle, Winter Homecoming.
Jam the Jungle, baby.
Wednesday. JTJ, Wednesday, GB. They're playing Green Bay. Sorry, I'm trying to make it as acronymical as possible.
You lost everybody there.
And then hosting Oakland on Sunday. Jam the Jungle will be a blackout game as well, so the first 150 fans will receive black Jaguar shirts. Like blackout like the shirts, not blackout like drink 8.5 ABV.
Not Jason Kelsey. Right?
Not climb into the stand shirtless in Buffalo, New York in January and start chugging beers. IUPUIJags.com/tickets.
Love it.
For our friends at IUPUI. We come back on the show. We'll wrap up Chateau Kitchen's Bite or Bold Bleep, and we will send you on your way. It's Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Hey, AC.
Nice snap.
Mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Back for a final time. It's Bailey and Wood presents Corey and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks so much to Chateau Kitchens for always being a great sponsor of this program. They've been inside my house many a time to the point where Ollie doesn't even bark at them anymore.
Really?
Like if Steven or Megan or...
So Chateau Kitchens and myself.
Yeah, pretty much. Or Ryan, our project manager, he's been our project manager on multiple projects, comes over. Ollie doesn't even bark anymore. He doesn't care. He's like, oh, I know those people. They're cool with me. Chateau can be cool with you if you've got a home remodeling project, your kitchen, your bathroom, maybe even your basement. Like I've done all three of those things. ChateauKitchens.com and at Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook for before and after pictures. They do wonderful, wonderful work. Here's what we do. I give a statement, Jake, and I go back and forth whether we buy it or it's Bold Bleep. Statement one, Jake.
Yep.
The Pascal Siakam trade is only a win if he re-signs long-term. Buy it or
Oh, totally agree. Yeah. Buy it 100%. If you,
I mean, you'd have to say yes, right? Like, I don't think they gave up anything. Bruce Brown was a short-term guy no matter what.
That's probably true, yeah.
And I think part of me thinks that they structured that deal in a way where they knew that they could trade him.
Well,
right?
they also,
be a salary match.
The other thing, too, Derek, don't sleep on, is the possibility that they knew if they don't re-sign Siakam, they got rid of future picks that then allows them to continue to grow in-house what they have and re-sign them.
Yeah, and they can't use a bunch of late firsts anyway.
Right.
I mean, we're talking about it. They have too many guys for a 10-man rotation right now.
Right.
What are they going to do with a bunch of late picks? So, yeah, I mean, I think you have to say you buy it. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if he doesn't re-sign. Statement 2, Josh Allen won't be able to get Buffalo over the hump in the AFC Buy or Bold Bleep.
Man, I like Josh Allen a great deal, and I like Buffalo, and I think about our friend Scott, for example, and Bills fans. But the Von Miller contract is looming, starting to pay unfair dividends, and then Josh Allen's number goes way up. Yeah. So it's about to get tougher. So I say the window closed.
All the greats get over the hump. Peyton did against Brady. Everybody gets over the hump, and Josh Allen does as well.
Okay.
Buy or Bold Bleep. This is a great show. Buy it. I didn't have a third one. I think it deleted before I saved. So sorry about that. Thanks to our great
that was
sponsors.
Like, what, we driving on ice there and you
Bailey
just
and Wood
slammed the
Financial
brakes? What
Group,
the hell was that?
Our friends at Chateau Kitchens.
We need to have a meeting about
heating and
smooth
cooling.
transitions and
Chili Water Brewing, Hoagies and Hops, and IUPUI Athletics. For Vince, for Rake, for Jake, I'm Derek. Bye-bye. We will see you next time here on Corey
Thank
Schultz,
you.
ISC Sports
I don't know
Network.
what just happened.
Sorry.
IUPUI basketball is back. Come witness history with head coach Matt Crenshaw inside Indiana Farmers Coliseum and head coach Kate Bruce inside the Jungle as they usher in a new era of Jaguars athletics. Be there for exciting Horizon League and in-state matchups. Affordable fun for the whole family. Full season tickets are now on sale starting as low as $80. Order today at iupuyjags.com/tickets or call 317-278-2530. Work hard, make noise, have fun. Go Jags.
At Bailey & Wood, we pride ourselves on our 5-star customer service. But at our core, we're a family. Family owned and family to our customers, staff, and our community. From charity events to recognizing hometown heroes, we prioritize giving back to our communities that have always supported our growth. So let us help you get your dream home today.